it is July 19th, bringing a Lake of the Ozarks fishing report. As you can see, it's brought to you by both James and Denise Dill guide service down here on Lake of the Ozarks. We'll give you the lake conditions and then kind of tell you what we've been doing down here to catch fish for both numbers and then size. So lake level right now is 659.62, I believe it is. So it's pretty much full. We've got some really good rain here the last 4 or 5 days, maybe. A couple real good hard downpours, you know, which was really important just to push a lot of water in some of these, in the backs of some of these creeks, whether they're just run off into little creeks or coves, and then some of the major creeks, you know, finally got some flow and water coming into them, which obviously, you know, just brings in minerals, brings in oxygen, brings in new water, just brings in everything we need just to keep our lake, you know, good and healthy, and the ecosystem, you know, working properly. And that's what we've gotten here the last few days. You know, the water temperatures probably, I'm gonna say, what do you think, mid 80s, you know, pretty much every day. You know, the rain's kind of cooled things down just a little bit, but man, it really heats up during the day. So we're going to say mid 80s for water temp. Water clarity, I would probably say that's the biggest thing that's changed. The water clarity, I've noticed, is really the backs of creeks and coves has finally got a little bit of color. You know, Main Lake is still pretty clear, I'd say, from you know, lower glades, lower gravois, you know, and then most of the lower ends is still pretty clear. I'm gonna say 3 foot visibility. But today we were up in a bigger creek, and I was kind of looking. I think maybe about, I'm gonna say 18 inches, you know, visibility. So that's getting a little more what we're used to here at the Ozarks, where you can fish clear water if you want. Or if things ain't working, or you're just not getting the bites, you can run up one of the river arms, or maybe back to just a major creek and get a little bit of color. So and kind of switch things up. And that's, you know, I don't know, that's kind of how we like to approach things. You know, when we're ready to change, we're not getting bites, or things just ain't going on the way we want, we'll switch it up. And that usually means going from Main Lake to a creek, midway, all the way in the back of a creek, or vice versa. If we're trying to fish shallow and we're not getting bites, you know, we'll switch it up and we'll go to some clearer, deeper, bigger water. So, you know, sometimes you just got to do that. You just got to make a drastic change sometimes and get a whole new look at the water, a whole different aspect, you know, as far as fishing. You know, as far as fishing right now, I'd say it's pretty good. You know, you got days in the middle of summer. You know, you'll have some days, man, they'll just really bite, and they'll bite good, and they'll bite all day long. And then you got other days like when we had a big group trip down here. We had 12 guides, all met, a big group, a Dobbs group from St. Louis come down, and I think the consensus from all of us was, you had about 2 hours in the morning, the fish bit pretty good, and then it was like a switch, and they were done. It was all you could do just to get a bite. So some days it's just like that. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. You got sometimes it's a 2 or 3 hour window, and like you said, sometimes it's a longer window, and sometimes it's a short window. So
yeah, and don't, you know, you try to figure it all out. You know, obviously, I think we all overthink it a lot of times. You know, the fish they're either feeding or they're not. You know, and obviously, you know, we start talking about baits. You know, obviously when they're biting really good, I'll let Denise tell you, she's been a pretty decent little topwater bite. So when they're biting early morning, or even shade, kind of tell them what you've been doing, what you're targeting. You know what I'm saying, as far as to get some bites.
Well, I've really been throwing the Berkeley Chapo Chapo bait, and I talk about it a lot. I'm throwing it on a Falcon Expert, literally a topwater rod reel combo with my Lew's reel, and the Berkeley Chapo, uh, it has quite the unique sound. You kind of have that bait, that whopper plopper or the Chapo. Some people are married to the Chapo, and some people are, they throw the whopper plopper. You're still going to get where I'm targeting the bait is I was really here open banks, big chunk rocks, definitely in the mornings or right before dark. A lot of times I'm throwing it right up close to the bank. I mean, you literally almost have to throw it on the bank and bring it back from the seawall. And I have then also been moving to where I'm able to fish it around the dock some. But
like today we were out a little bit, and I was fiddling around back here with something, and you started running them shade lines and caught some in the shade, and it was 10 o'clock. Yeah. So the sun was up bright, but you're not really catching them on sunny banks, so you got to have the shade. So once that shade gets up, and I really like it when that shade is pushing out about, I don't know, 5 to 8 foot off the bank, and you got definite shade line, 5 to 8 foot off of the bank. Usually some of these steeper banks, like with the bigger rocks, and where they kind of have a flat spot coming from the bank out maybe 8-10 foot, and then they start their drop off, and fish will get up there and they're feeding on bluegill. I was talking the other day about how much green plant life we have in the water this year, and I think it's really kept, I'm going to say, the majority of fish shallow. I mean, when I say shallow, 8 foot and less. I know there's some deep fish, there always is, just like there's always some shallow fish, but we're catching a lot more fish in shallow depths than we are deeper water, and I think a lot of it, of course we got that rain, which helped, and we needed it bad, but the green plants, they're at nighttime when they're going through their process, they produce oxygen, and a lot of it, and the fish know it, and the fish got to go where it's comfortable. Just everything about green plants in the water, and I'm only talking, a foot, maybe 16 inches of a plant in the water, but the bluegill get in there, the fry get in there, the shad get up in there, the crawfish, just everything lives in that green plant life, and the bass know it. So they're, like I mentioned before, the water was so low, and the plants grew this year, and they grew a lot all around the banks, and then that water come up. So now that plant life is in the water, and it's just making for some good shallow habitat that these fish are really using. So she's catching a lot on the top water early, but then kind of just kind of chasing the.
It can even be in the middle of the day.
Chasing the shade.
Basically. Chasing the shade. That is. I mean, you can almost, if your cast doesn't get somewhere in the shade and you bring it through the shade, whether it be from a catwalk or from the dock, creating that shade from the roof, you just are playing the foam on the docks, so you've got to just really make sure that your bait is in the shade. And
it's just, the bass, they're not going to lay or hang out just right in the bright sunlight. It's just not their nature. They're just not going to do it. They're going to use a shade line like they would a piece of structure. Sometimes they'll lay right at that shade line, as an ambush point or an attack or whatever you want to call it. So the shade line has been a really productive pattern. Now, other things that we're doing, and we're throwing other baits besides the Chapo. I've been throwing just a small 3/8 little crappie gator head knocker. The little 3/8 has seemed to really been producing here lately, and exact same deal. Throwing it right up to the seawall or right up to the bank. If you hit 4 foot from the bank, you might as well bring it in. It's kind of a wasted cast, because I think your feeding bass are hanging out there in that 4 to 6 foot off of the bank a lot of times, and they're waiting for a bluegill, a stray to come off of the bank, or a shad, or whatever it might be that they're feeding on, and that's when they attack it. So if you throw your bait right up to the bank or seawall or what have you and retrieve it out, it's going to look natural. And the little 3/8 head knocker is excellent for that. You know, I'll usually put a number 2 trailer hook on the back of the 3/8. That seems to work good. A number 1 or number 2 on the back of it, and I just cover a lot of water. Same thing she's doing with the Chapo. You're just covering a lot of water, looking for active fish. They're easier to catch, you know, like that on open banks. You're not spending a lot of time flipping in behind docks or what have you. So, you know, the little 3/8 head knocker's been working good. A little chug bug has still been working really good. The little whopper plopper, what number is this? 90, I think, or 60.
Maybe small.
Anyway, it's
75.
75. It's the smallest whopper plopper, and you can throw it right to the bank. And these are good, like we'll throw these on lighter tackle, you know, some spinning rods and reels, you know, maybe some lighter medium cast, a bait caster with lighter line. You can cast these, but they work great on spinning rods and reels. A lot, these smaller ones, you know, chug bug, the little whopper, the smaller Chapo, and then, you know, the little 3/8 head knocker, and still on color, black. You know, it's pretty much, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with a black Chapo, whopper, buzzbait, whatever. You know, it's more about covering water and getting it up there in front of them. So, you know, you can have a lot of fun with topwater, cover a lot of water, and this thing, just for numbers, you've been catching a lot of keepers on it. You know, several trips you've had a couple 3-pounders. You know, I mean, them are good solid fish. You know, during the day. You know, and then keepers. We caught a couple keepers today on it. The other day in a trip, I had caught one of the largemouth keepers on a small buzzbait. You know, so there's a lot of decent fish up there feeding. They're not just small fish. So, you know, other baits that we're throwing now, at least shallow. Obviously, we're throwing some little square bills. It's starting to get into square bill season. You know, like a shad color. This is a little 6 cents, little square bill. It's got a little rattle in it. You know, and then I've got other ones I like to throw without a rattle. You know, I'm not sure what this is here.
KVD.
I think this is a KVD. It's got the kind of a brownish back, the orange belly, and the black sides. This one produces every year, and it's kind of the same deal. This you want to throw, you know, along shallow docks, just parallel alongside the shallow docks, up in the boat slips, the open slips, you know, lay downs, shallow brush. You know, you just let this thing kind of root around and just try to get a reaction bite, you know. And any of the square bills, you can throw them, and most of them are going to get bites because it's just kind of moving pretty quick, and the fish will just dart out and grab it. So the square bill is coming into play pretty good now. I'm catching several fish on that. That's only going to get better. You know, other baits, let's see, that moving baits. You know, that's really it on the moving baits that we're throwing. You know, and then we're getting into, well, I'll talk about a little bit here. Today I was playing with a little more crankbait. I was throwing the DD22, and this is that chartreuse purple back. It's one of my favorite colors. There's another one called splatterback. It's kind of a white shad with a black dots on the back, spots on the back. Kind of looks like a shad. But you know, I'm throwing this on 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon on a 7'3" deep cranking falcon rod. You know, so this is crankbait's one of the baits. You do want to have the proper rod and reel set up. You know, I've been throwing this Daiwa to Tula. It's a 5.5 gear ratio. This thing is this is one of the best reels I've ever really thrown. I'll be honest. I mean, this thing, I throw a lot of reels. I throw them some lures. I really like some of the lures. The Bass Pro Qualifier is one of the best for flipping, you know, but when it comes to cranking, this Tatula has really proven itself to me. Just long cast, very little trouble with backlash. It's extremely smooth. It's a proper gear ratio for crankbaits. This setup has been working really good. And today we're just fishing. I've seen a lot of suspended fish, you know, probably 15, 18 foot down. And I threw that crankbait through them, and I had a lot of them chasing it. Ended up catching a couple on it, and had some pretty big shadows on the live scope coming up after that. I thought it was going to get me a big one, but you know, they were at least reacting to it. So that's a bait that's maybe if they're not necessarily feeding real heavy, and you can crank it down and bump some brush or dig in some dirt or bounce off a couple rocks down there where they're down suspended right for a break or something. You can have some good success with a deep diving crankbait. The other one that I've been playing with a lot more here, doing a lot more research, asking a lot of questions to people that, you know, have thrown it a lot more. I've played with it quite a bit, but nowhere what I'm trying to get into, and that's these glide baits. You know, this is that Spro KGB. This is the 180 glide, and this thing. I was talking to Michael Harlan the other day, and I just asked him, "What are you throwing, and which one, and why do you like it, and this and that." And this one here, this thing just glides effortlessly, and you start and stop that reel. You know, you throw it up, throw wherever you're gonna throw it, and you just start reeling it. Stop, reel, stop, reel, stop, and you can speed that up. You can just do different things and watch your bait up there. And that thing, it really, when you stop it, it'll spin all the way around a circle, you know, and it just looks so lifelike. I caught a couple on it today, just alongside a big dock. It was just a big cruiser dock, and I'm just mainly watching the thing, trying to learn how to really throw it and know what I'm doing with the thing a little more before we get into the real good glide bait season. But I'm just playing with the thing, and these fish are coming out. I'm watching a lot of them shoot out and follow the thing, and a couple of them are hitting it. I caught one today. It was about, I don't know, 14 inches or so, but I literally had about a foot of line left, and it was laying there in the water, and it was sitting still, and I was just looking at the bait, how real it looked, and the thing come up and hit it right at the boat. So the thing about these glide baits that I've noticed, when they decide it's something they're going to eat, it doesn't matter what else is going on. They're coming out and they're going to chase it and they're going to eat it. But this is kind of the trout color. They've got several different colors, but this thing, it's well worth the money. I think this thing was $50. This is that, where's the packet? There. This is that Spro. It's kind of a newer one, the Spro KGB. This is the 180. And it's well worth the extra money. You know, you're going to throw that on a 17 or 20 pound test on a big stiff rod, you know, with a good, you know, this is the Lew's heavy duty reel. I think this one's 7. No, this one's an 8 to 1. Doesn't matter a whole lot on that because you're starting, you're stopping, you know. And it's just you gotta have the right setup for it. But these glide baits, they are definitely the deal. You know, like I said, I played with it last year. Some of the cheaper ones, like the River to Sea S-Wave, you know, they got good action, but they're nowhere near what they are coming out with now. You know, I've got this little S-Wave here. This is the smaller one. And this thing works dynamite just for catching fish. A lot of them around big docks, even wave breaks, you know, whatever. You know, the thing just looks real. It's a small bait. It might be something you play with to get used to throwing them. You don't have to throw it on a big rod or reel. You can throw it on medium medium, heavy action, you know, maybe lighten up your line a little bit, maybe 15-pound test on something like this. You know, these are a lot cheaper, and they'll definitely catch fish. But you can just tell, just the tail is kind of a molded plastic, a little cheaper compared to this this Bro. It's got the, I call it paintbrush, you know, lifelike tail. It's just really, I was impressed with this thing today, throwing it, just playing with it, you know. So other baits, other than the moving baits, what are you doing with your jigs right now?
Well, when I'm talking about fishing the docks, one of the things I am doing is playing that shade line where I could literally be throwing my topwater baits. If that gets to where it's not becoming productive, I'll throw my jig, and my usual go-to, of course, is my Crappie Gator 1/2 ounce zapper jig, and I have my pack-a-chunk trailer on it, and I'm matching the skirt with it. I've got the blue, it's got that magic craw color on it, so I'm matching my trailer with it. Not as the action is what they're, time and time again you bring it back, one of the pinchers is gone. But this bait, I'm literally skipping it by the foam, getting it underneath those cables, and getting it in that shade where I feel where the fish are when they're around, you know,
around docks, shallow docks, even bluffy, shelfy stuff, you know, bluff ends where you got, you know, about a 5-foot shelf and it drops off, breaks off. When they kind of back off the bank, they'll get on that first break where it drops off and they'll hang there. You know, the net bait, the pecker chunk, and then the pecker chunk senior. There's 2 different sizes. The pecker chunk senior works really good on that 1/2 ounce. You know, the pecker chunk works good too, but the senior has a lot bigger pinchers, paddles on it, and it moves a lot of water. You know, and they really, something about this that they really will grab. You can work it, like she said, just flipping it in, letting it sink to the bottom, and hopping it. These also work really good for stroking them off the bottom, whether it's the 1/2 ounce or the 3/4. I had a 3/4 here. Here's the big 3/4 ounce. This is the Crappie Gator reaction jig. It's basically the same zapper head, but it's a 3/4 ounce, and I put this baby pecker crawl on it, and you see it sticks out further. And I like this one a lot for letting it free fall down the bluff sides, them drop offs, flipping them cables and big cruiser dock. You know, they'll have them cable wheels on it, and them cables come out, and them fish are notorious, especially this time of year. They'll just suspend on them cables. You know, you can look at it with the live scope, and you see all these fish, whether it be crappie or bass, and they're hanging on these cables that are coming down off these docks, and they can decide where they want to suspend in that water column, whether it be the thermocline or where the shad are or whatever, and they'll just find a spot on that cable and they'll suspend, and it goes from the bottom, whether it be 40 foot of water, all the way up to the surface, and they can suspend on that cable. So these jigs, the 1/2 ounce, the 3/4, are just work great for just throwing up there and letting that big paddle swim down and swim by them cables. A lot of times you throw over that cable, it's coming down, and work it, and then just kind of reel it until you feel that cable, and then pop it up over that cable, and that's when you'll get the bite. Something different like that.
Inside the boat slips.
Yeah, right. That's a good one. Inside the slips.
Your lifts that are, then it's just boat position and being able to play that angle and getting that flipped in there and letting it drop. And a lot of times that reaction bite, they'll hit it usually on the fall.
I'd say 85 to 90%. It's on the fall. with a jig. If not, as soon as it hits the bottom, you let it sit there. You just let it sit there so they can catch up to it. Some of them just will follow it to the bottom and look at it, and as soon as you move it, they're on it. So that's another good deal with that. You know, obviously the worms and stuff we're using right now in brush piles, around brush, behind docks, just points. Mainly, I really say brush though right now. Brush is key, especially with worms. You know, I'm just throwing it on a 3/8 ounce tungsten weight with a 5/0 Gamakatsu offset worm hook, 10-inch power worm. Has been working really good. This is that Tequila Sunrise. I've got a couple colors I throw. You know, I'm throwing it on a 7-foot all-purpose Falcon. It's kind of a I'd say a medium heavy. With this is a actually this ain't what I normally throw it on, but it's an 8-to-1 reel spooled up with 15, 17, or 20-pound test. You know, other baits that are working. Obviously, different color. Power bait worm, the 10-inch, but the big brush hog, the big full-size brush hog. This time of year, dragging it around, usually dragging on the back of like a Wheezy head, a Wheezy jig, the 5/8 ounce Wheezy jig with the full-size brush hog on the back of it. Just throw it out. You know, normally you're throwing it in 12 to 25 foot, and you're just dragging it and just letting that thing hit them rocks, move them rocks, maybe find a couple odd rocks down there, little brush. You know, you find some brush and you can pull that Wheezy jig through it, in it, all around it. It's not going to get hung up. But a big bait seems to be getting the bigger bites if you are throwing out deeper. You know, and then of course we're going through all kind of worms. The other couple weeks ago I was telling you about this swamp swimmer. This is a crocodile worm, and it's got a swim bait tail on the back of it. So it allows you to use it like both a swim bait or a worm. You know, you can drag this thing along, swim it up over the top of a brush pile, and that thing kicks just right. You can flip it, and that thing kicks on the way down. It'll get you a lot of bites too. So it's just a different style worm, and this is just a June bug color. You know, you can't really go wrong with that. You know, that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're doing all kind of stuff just to catch fish, and it changes day to day, throughout the day. There's a lot of times on the live scope you can see the fish there. You can see them suspended on the docks. You can see them suspended on braces, on the brakes. You know, you can see them up there swimming around them shallows. And some days they'll bite, some days they're not. You just gotta switch it up, spend a little time. You know, I'm only spending, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour with something. And if I'm not getting bites, I'm switching. I'm doing something different.
Too many options.
Yeah, exactly. There's too many options right now that you definitely can catch fish on to stick with one bait. You know, the drop shot, when it gets really tough, I've been throwing a drop shot still, and it's just a very, very subtle, you know, bait with the weight is, you know, inverted. It's down on the bottom, and then you've got a 4-inch worm up here just moving around naturally. You can pop it up, and that thing flutters back down. You can just drag it, let that weight drag along the bottom, and this worm's just up here. That'll get you a lot of bites just when you're just trying to get bites, generate bites. You know, something like this is really finessey. This is, you know, spin around reel setup, 20-pound high-vis yellow braid, and then I've got 10-pound fluorocarbon leader on that. You know, I like at least a 12, 15-foot leader so I can switch it a couple times, retie if I need to, you know, get clear line out there where the fish are more likely to see it or not feel the vibration that braid puts off. So if you just want to come down and do something easy, you can take a drop shot and throw that anywhere. You can throw it on main lake stuff, You can throw it in between docks, just anywhere, and just throw it out. Let it go to the bottom. Keep your line real tight. If your line's tight, that means the weight's on the bottom, and you're pulling it. That weight's on the bottom. That worm's just up here moving around, and you can just drag it like that. Just drag it, stop it, let that worm kind of go in, and start dragging again, and you're just gonna get bites on it. You know, a lot of small fish, but it will at least generate some bites. You know,
generating bites, yeah.
a lot of times, you know, they're talk about generating bites. She's got something she's been using quite a bit this year. You can tell them about that.
Same exact setup that Jim's talking about with his drop shot. That's the exact 20-pound braid with your fluorocarbon leader. And I've been playing around with this wacky rig, and I tell you, it's just a nice option to use. I'm using the 3/16 Gamakatsu. It's got the double, it has the double weed guard, and then I'm using, of course, your setting it up with the wacky rig there with the circle on there, and just literally take the hook right through the circle. I am throwing the green pumpkin with the chartreuse. I really think that I feel like I'm getting more bites with that little bit of chartreuse, just because when I'm looking on the bank, I'm seeing a lot of, you know, your bluegill and seeing that chartreuse flash on the, basically what they're feeding on. So
obviously you see that thing, the action it has, it just looks so natural. It'll get bites when other things are not getting bites.
And it is, you almost feel yourself that slow, you have to literally slow down. And that's, and the reason why you're doing that is because the fish, they're just slowing down maybe, and it's very productive. I've had
some decent fish on it too. I was surprised.
Yeah.
The other day we were out and you caught a couple behind me on that, thrown in around, lay down.
Yeah.
You know.
Hi, Chloe.
Another worm I was going to tell you about, I forgot about. I'm catching some fish on it when these fish are a little bit more aggressive, and even when they're not. This is that. It's called the cut. I always call it cut tail, but it's actually called a cut R worm by Strike King. It's a rage tail worm, and it's got a big kicking tail on that thing. You know, you can see the thing's got real wide wedge here on the back, and man, when you reel that thing, it's kicking hard, and it's big fat. It's got a skinny deal here. It's good for coming through brush, but I get a lot of bites just when I'm done retrieving on the bottom and I start reeling that thing in. Them fish will come off the bottom and grab that thing, and you can watch them on the live scope. You don't even see a fish, and you start reeling that up, and the fish will come shooting up off the bottom and grab it. So it's just another
like
worm.
A little packet chunk.
It does have like a single packet chunk tail on it. But that's that rage tail. You know, the Berkeley Power Bait 10-inch worm, the culprit, the 7-inch Fat Max, Tequila Sunrise, got a little more ribbon tail on it, a little different. You know, all of them are catching fish right now, just switching up. You know, we're switching from big, small, different trailers, or different tails on the worms. You know, some that, like I said, that rage tail kicks a lot. Others just kind of slide. You just kind of got to switch it up right now to catch fish, but you can catch fish. We fished till about 11 today, 11 or so, and caught them pretty good early, and then kind of slowed up a little bit, and then right before we came in, we caught a few more. She caught a couple of decent ones in that shade line, and I caught a decent one on a jig off a bluff end. So I was actually stroking it. So they kind of slow down a little bit. You got to do something, a real erratic movement, and maybe generate a bite. You know, just like that whopper popper or the chopo or the buzz bait. You know, you throw that up there, you start reeling it, and they just have to out of instinct go at it. They'll come out from underneath the catwalks. they'll come out, you know, out of the shade lines, whatever, and attack your bait. So, you know, bass is good fishing right now. It can get tough, but it's good, and you can fish in a foot of water on shallow docks. You can fish out on bluff ends where your boat's sitting in the channel at 50, 60 foot, and you can throw right up to the bank. Secondary points are holding fish. Some of your humps are holding fish. The brush piles obviously are holding fish. They're always holding fish. Some days are down in the brush pile. Today I noticed there was several sitting above the brush pile. That's why I threw that crankbait. I was watching that crankbait come down, and I tried to get right to that brush pile. I'd stall it, and I started again, and the fish come up out of that brush pile. You know, they would at least come out. I could see them. Like I said, I caught a couple on it, but as we get a little further in the year, that comes on really good. So, man, that's about all we can tell you right now. The crappie are still biting. You can catch crappie, I think, any day of the year down here on the lake. I was looking for it here, but I'm still throwing. We got these B&M sharpshooters. We got these up at Bryant's, Jose's Outdoors, up here in Lori. He gets them for us. But this is my favorite crappie rod. If I can see here. There we go. The favorite crappie rod. You can cast these, reel them, but they're made for shoot. So you can really load that tip up and let that thing sling back up underneath some of these docks. Right now we are having to get in underneath some of these boat lifts. Some of the bigger cruiser boats, they got the big, you know, their hull goes down in the water, and them crappie will suspend right underneath it. You got to shoot way back in there. Underneath the big swim platforms are still really good. Them are always good. You know, we're throwing that on an 1/8 ounce head, coil head. It's called a screwing around head, he calls it. Dave over there at Hook Solutions, right there in Lincoln, right there off 65, makes those. They're excellent. It puts a real good hook in it. One of them sickle hooks, and they're really sharp and really strong. We catch a lot of bass on that. We're doing that when we're shooting docks, you know, or if you see some structure down there, I'd say probably 12 to 15 foot, brush piles, you can swim, throw it out there, let it sink down to it, swim over the top, and the fish are going to come out and grab that. You can catch plenty crappie right now. Big shaded open cruiser docks, condo docks where you got an open slip, or you can get down alongside a big dock, shoot it up in there, up to the front, let it sink down there, you know, just bury your retrieve, reel it in, and you can catch plenty crappie. If you don't want to do that, you've got a boatload of people, or you just want to catch some crappie, the trolling the crankbait this time of year, you can't beat it for crappie. I think everybody knows it now. It's the Bandits. The Bandit 300 series goes 8 to 12 foot. You can throw it on lighter lines, 6-pound test, 8-pound test, and it'll get down there a little deeper. If you're trolling, you can let a lot of line out and go a little slower on your trolling, and I know you can get that thing down there 15, 16 foot because I've seen it and I felt it hit the bottom. You know, this is that splatterback. It's just a white with black speckles on it. A bluegill pattern works good. This chartreuse purple has been working really good. And basically all we're doing is we're trolling along bluffs. You just troll bluffs, bluff ends, in the middle of the bluffs. You just watch your graphs, you watch your Garmin's or whatever you have, you watch your screen on down image, and you'll see the wad of crappie. They just look like a big Christmas tree. There's just piles of them, and you just troll along, talk, do whatever until you see them, and then you get ready, and that crankbait comes over, and you're gonna catch them, and then you just catch them. You can run that back and forth and catch them. They like the intersections where the big creeks come to the main lake. Them intersections there will troll down the bluff, turn the corner, go in the cove, just probably 50, 80 yards, and then go across it over to the other point, and then go back and then go down that bluff. And you can catch a lot of fish like that. That's good for for anybody. Catch them, kids especially, and sit here and talk and and just throw a crankbait back there. That rod loads up on you, and usually them fish come right to the top, and you ski them across the top and bring them in. So but that's great for crappie right now. I caught some white bass today on accident. I caught them on crankbait. I don't know what else. The big flatheads, they're biting that big jig. They'll bite that big crankbait, that big worm. But whatever. We ain't much on the catfish. But everything's good down here at the lake. Yeah, it gets hot. You get out there early, fish for 4 or 5 hours. Come in, go do something, go hang out in the water. Today we hung out in the water with some friends. Went to what was that, Fish Company down there in Lynn Creek. It was some great service and excellent food. I hadn't been there for years, but I had a fish sandwich and you had the fish tacos. Anyway, the food was excellent. Service was good. They were busy. We were at Captain Ron's the other day. They're busy. Got a nice little beach there, plenty of docks, no wake cove, and Captain Ron's, it's all no wake, but Bear Bottom's up there, going there a lot, on the water. All these places are on the water. Where else on the water over there? Lake House 13 is in the back of Chimney on the right side. You can get way back in there.
Grab voice you got.
Yeah, the grab voice, obviously you got Coconuts, you got Jolly Rogers, Lake Burger. What's the one out on the point? With fish. Where we got all the motorhomes.
Oh, Tap and Grill.
Tap and Grill. Tap and Grill. Anyway, there's you got Backwater Jacks down there at the 17-mile marker, I guess it is, 17. You go in, Backwater Jacks is in the very back. The Reserve is on the right. Really nice upscale restaurant. If you've never been to Reserve, that's a neat place, kind of restored old building. But Dog Days, but there's all kinds of them. No matter where you're at, upriver. I'm not familiar with some of them names, but I know one's called the Wet Spot. There's several up lake that are get a lot of good reviews too. So Red Fox at the 50, that's a good one. That's been there for a long time. Anyway, there's plenty on the lake, and we've got plenty off the lake. A lot of restaurants, a lot of great food down here, and a lot of great things to do. So, man, come on down the lake, visit the Ozarks, bring your family down here. There's a little something here for everybody. There's a lot of coves, creeks, a lot of you don't want to call them party coves because there's not partying going on. Just people going back there and relaxing, anchoring and hanging out with their families. A lot of families just enjoying the water out there. They're packing lunches and drinks, and you go out there and hang out on mats. And enjoy the day, enjoy the water, and stay out of heat, and then come in and go to a restaurant or something. But either way, man, things are good here at the lake. So like always, if we can help you with anything, obviously a trip, we'd love to get you out on the water, catch some fish, whatever it is you're wanting to do. You want to learn how to fish, you want to learn a certain technique, you want to go out and just catch fish, you want to send your kids out with us, your grandsons, your sons, daughters, wives, dads, whatever. Take somebody fishing, get them out on the water. It's a lot of fun. Everybody can do it. I don't care who you are, you can fish. And if you've never fished and you want to fish, we will by all means teach you how to fish. We will keep it very simple. We'll keep it basic just so you catch fish, and then you can build on it from there. That's what's the best part about hiring a guide. You let them know what you're wanting. It's your trip, so you dictate what you fish for, what you want to do. If you want to learn, just catch fish, big fish. I've had trips the last couple of weeks. Guys said, I'd like to catch fish, but I want to let's just catch some big fish. So we only caught, I don't know, 5, 6 fish in 4 hours, but they were good fish, good solid fish, and that's what we were after. Or we'll go out and we'll catch, you might catch 25, 30 fish in 4 hours, a lot of small ones, but it's a lot of fun. So as a guide service, we try to just customize all the trips to exactly what you're wanting, whether for yourself, a family member, like I said, somebody that's never fished or somebody that's fished all their life. We'll go out and we'll have a good time, and we'll be safe. It's just a good time. So give us a call. Give me a call at 573-204-9005 or Denise
At 314-226-3099.
And if there's anything else we can help you with down here on the lake, if you get down here, you're not familiar with the area, whether it be restaurants, somewhere to stay, repair shops, whatever it is you can imagine, and you need it, give us a text, shoot us a text, and we'll send you in the right direction. We talk about it all the time over here. We deal with Gary and his boys here at Sport World Boat Center right here at the Hurricane Neck Bridge. They've been there for over 20 years, well established, know pretty much anything about everything when it comes to boats. On the other side, you got several good ones on the other side. Boat Works over there, they'll help you.
And our tackle stores, we've got
tackle stores.
3 Fit stores, and we've got Bryant's and Lori and
Osage Outdoors. And Versailles up there. They're building a brand new spot right there at O and 5, a brand new big building. Like she said, Bryant's, Osage Outdoors. And I'll say something about Bryant's. I don't think a lot of people even know this. I know they don't know it. Otherwise, the place would be standing room only. There's a fisherman, been working in there, Dion Hibden. You may have noticed, or you may have heard this name before. I'm without a doubt, I'm going to say the #1 fishing family on Lake the Ozarks when it was Guido, Dion, Lawson, Peyton. They all fish. Lawson's tearing up the lake right now. He's winning everything. But Dion works in Bryant's, Osage Outdoor, and he's there every day. You want to talk fishing or learn anything about fishing, go in there. I went in there the other day myself, just to run in there to get something. I think I was going in to get some trailer hooks. I went in there. It was going to be a 10-minute deal. 4 hours later, we ate lunch. I left out of there. I sat there and listened to Dion and his stories and try to get all the info and knowledge out of this guy. So if you're on this west side and you want some fishing knowledge, and Dion's not shy about anything, but he's not shy about telling you what to do, how to do it, what to use. You go into Bryant's and you say, hook me up with a rod and reel, or hook me up with a couple baits to catch fish, or maybe a certain area where Dion's going to fill you in, and he's going to tell you. To be able to go into a tackle shop, a local tackle shop, and get that kind of service and knowledge, you're not going to get that anywhere else but there. And obviously, all the fishing locations, you've got well established, Wayne, Brian, Robbie, Ben, you, Jessica, just everybody. They all know fishing. They're not just in there behind the counter. They're there to help you catch fish down here, set you up with the right equipment, the right baits, the right techniques, patterns, whatever it is, and help you down here fishing. That's what the local tackle stores are all about. You're not going to a big box store where someone has no clue of what's going on, what you need, what they're biting on. None of that. These local tackle stores know that stuff, and they will give you the right information. So, when you get down here, if you don't have anything when you get down here, or you forget something, or you don't have a chance to go buy tackle, visit one of these local